Hey everybody, so this is a discussion question guide for Shanghai girls. Just to explain, I am doing discussion guide questions for books that I've read in my book club. Only those. I'm in 3 different book clubs though. One at the first Monday of the month, one at the second Monday of the month, and one at the third Monday of the month. I don't know. I mean, not the third, but the fourth. What kind of craziness I try to do, but it works out in the end. So, anyways, when I finish a book, I will go ahead and record myself doing discussion questions. So, anybody who's read it can watch it and see if they agree with my opinions. So, before I start the questions, I'll go ahead and say about the book. In 1937, Shanghai, sisters Pearl and May are beautiful, modern, and carefree, until the day their father tells them that he has gambled away their wealth and is selling the girls as wives to men from the United States. Along their journey, they make terrible sacrifices, face impossible choices, and confront a devastating, life-changing secret. But through it all, the two heroines of this astounding new novel hold fast to who they are, Shanghai girls. So, I'm going to read the question and then I'll give my answer. Some may be long, some may be short, but all of them are probably going to spoil the book. So before I even get into this, if you have not read the book, do not watch this video. I always put disclaimers at the beginning of these videos for a reason, because I do not want to get hate like, I can't read this book because you ruined it for me. It's a discussion question thing. I just want to see if anybody agrees with my opinions of it, and I kind of want to see if maybe I'm reading into it wrong, somebody can correct me, etc. Anyways, Pearl's narration is unique because of its level tone or calm tone throughout, even when the events she describes are horrific. One is reminded of Wordsworth's reference to emotion recollected in tranquility. It is almost as if Pearl is writing a diary. What is Lisa C. trying to accomplish by setting this counterpoint between her tone and her narrative? I think she is literally trying to get you to see it through Pearl's eyes. She's trying to see, basically tunnel vision it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. And you can tell that she really wants you to relate to Pearl. And if you read it the same way I do, you really do. You really start feeling for her, and you just kind of want to go and hug Pearl because Pearl's been through so much, and you don't understand how she's been through so much, and she's still in one piece. And I think some of the things she does in because if she were to actually open her mind to what has happened to her, she would go insane. And I think that's the reason she just keeps level. And it's been all of this stuff has been drilled into her head, and that's why she's just like, I just gotta keep doing this. Gotta move forward, move forward. Number 2. Pearl is a dragon and May is a sheep. Do you think the two sisters and their actions in the novel are true to their birth signs? The way it's referenced many, many times, I would say so. I'm not familiar with zodiac signs. I don't really get into that. I mean, I know I'm a Leo and I know I'm a Tiger, but I don't know if the luck in my thing has anything to do with it. I just know what I am. Number 3. Which sister is smarter and which sister is more beautiful? Obviously, this is an opinion question, but I mean, it's very clear that Pearl is the smarter one, and not because she got an opportunity to go to college like May keeps going in her face. Oh, you got to go to college. I sent you to college. And I'm just sitting here thinking, you weren't interested in college. You were not interested in anything but the freshest dresses out there. Anyways, that's the point. Now, which is more beautiful? I don't really know. I mean, I felt like Pearl was the more beautiful one because she was strong and courageous. But a lot of people would say May was the more beautiful one because she was an actress and she was a double and all of this. And everybody thought she was just so pretty. I disagree. Number 4. Each sister believes that her parents loved the other sister more. Who is right about this and why? I think this is another opinion question. I think that Pearl felt like it was May because that was just, every day her father was critiquing her looks and her mother wanted to sit beside her so she could look at May. But in the end, I really don't think that they had a favorite, but I think that they entrusted Pearl more. They realized and recognized that out of the two of them, Pearl would be the more responsible one, whereas May is just kind of pretty and flighty. I don't think. I mean, maybe they did have a favorite, but I don't. I didn't see it. I think they had their own levels. Like they thought May was beautiful and funny and silly, and they thought Pearl was smart and educated and somebody that they could depend on. And they knew that if anything happened to them, that she would be there for May, and that made them happy and comfortable, if that makes any sense. Um, that's just my opinion, though. 5. Pearl says that parents die, husbands and children can leave, but sisters are for life. Does that end up being true for Pearl? If you have a sister, to what extent does the relationship between Pearl and May speak to your own experience? What's the difference between a relationship that's just like sisters and a relationship between real sisters? Is there anything your sister can do that can cause an irreparable breach? Um, she does still love May as a sister, but she loses all trust in May because of what May did. Um, as I said earlier, this is a spoil filled thing. So basically, May has an affair with ZG, who is Pearl is madly in love with. Madly in love with. And if they didn't know, I can understand, but May knew. So it's just kind of like, a stab in the back. And I know she couldn't help the way she felt, etc. And I think that's the reason that even though she did it, Pearl's like, you know what, I still love you and we can work through this, but I gotta go get my daughter. Her daughter ran away when she overheard their argument. That's another thing. As for sisters, I have 2 sisters, and one we're not close, but we're not distant either. I just haven't really heard from her in a number of years. I miss her and I love her. And then the other one passed away 10 years ago when she was 14, and not looking for a pity, just stating the facts. I can't say that the relationship between them is kind of like my own because I feel like May used and abused Pearl whenever it was convenient for her. And my sisters and I have never done that to each other ever. I think it's because we lived in a different environment and area. I don't believe there is a difference between just like sisters and sisters. If you find a friend that's you're so close, your sisters, you don't see a difference. You know that you guys are like sisters. And I say this because I say I have 2 sisters by blood. By blood, I have 2 sisters. But I have 3 sisters who I grew up with, and we're not blood related at all. But they will always be my sisters, in my opinion, and I don't care who tries to tell me that they're not. One of them and I are really close. We're closer than the other 2, but the other 2, we're still sisters. Number 6. CG talks about I Kaio, the love for your country, and I Jin, the emotion, and I'm sorry if I butcher these words, by the way, you feel for the person you love. How do these ideals play out in the novel? I feel like he's a fake completely. Like he talks about the love of your country and the emotion you feel for the person you love, and he does put the emotion out on everything he draws. Like you could just tell how much he cares for May. But the point is, when push came to shove, he was gone. You couldn't find him anywhere. He decided to abandon them. He decided to abandon his country when things got shady and things got tough. And with the girls, they were strong. They picked up, and they did what was best for them. Um, they loved each other. May sacrificed a lot when Pearl was repeatedly raped by the Japanese, and I mean, she carried her so far just to make sure that she, could get to a hospital, could get the help she needed. That's a really emotional part of the book, and I really almost couldn't get through that. Excuse me, it's like 1:30 in the morning. I'm super tired. Forgive me. Uh, Number 7. Shanghai Girls makes a powerful statement about the mistreatment of Chinese immigrants in the United States. Were you surprised about any of the details in the novel related to this theme? Actually, I wasn't. It was kind of interesting to actually see it like from a character's point of view, especially from like a Chinese character's point of view. But I learned about it in history class, and I kind of knew the after effects of everything, and I felt it was wrong then. But like I said, it's a nice little refresher, I guess you could say, and it's nice to see it from like a character in the book's point of view, and just how horrible it was. Like they couldn't own property here. They were constantly like Salem witch trials, so to speak, during the communist times. I thought it was horrible. Number 8. How would you describe the relationship between Pearl and May? How does the fact that both are, in a sense, Joy's mother how does the fact that both are, in a sense, Joy's mother affect their relationship? Who loves Joy more, and how does she show it? Well, I think that their relationship is very, very, like, bipolar? Is that the right word? I don't know. Like, they're either intensely close and intensely, you know, in sync, or they're completely against each other. There's, like, no middle ground with them. They completely get along, or they completely hate each other. Um, I do feel like they are both Joy's mother because May gave birth to Joy, and Joy was raised by Pearl because that was the way it was. They can't know. They just blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. I feel like she loved Pearl more because Pearl was her mother. Regardless of how it came out later, Pearl was the one that she referred to as mother all of her life. Um, Number 9. Pearl doesn't come to mother love easily or naturally. At what point does she begin to claim Joy as her own? How, where, and why does she continue to struggle with the challenges of being a mother? Do you think this is an accurate portrayal of motherhood? Um, I wouldn't say that she didn't come to it easily. I mean, it definitely took a while for it. Oh, she didn't hate Joy, but she was just kind of like very detached, and that's just because like she's kind of awkward. She's kind of trying to get through everything that went through what it was, what she'd been through, and because of how she was raised. I mean, her mother wasn't very emotional or very caring about her, and then there was the whole situation. She was trying to adapt to a new family, a new style of living, and it's just like all so much for her. I don't think it has anything to do with the portrayal of motherhood. I don't think it's accurate at all. Like some, maybe, I mean, maybe it's half and half. Like some parents take to their children immediately and they just love them for like the rest of their lives. And then some parents are like slow to warm up. And then some just don't want their kids, don't want anything to do with them, etc. And this is kind of ironic, me talking about this because I don't have kids. I mean, I want kids. I really do. But I think she started fully claiming her as her own when Joy started developing her own personality and started talking and started being expressive. Um, Definitely when she started walking and talking, because she's like, oh, that's my daughter. Number 10. There are times when it seems like the outside forces conspire against Pearl, leaving China, working the restaurant, not finding a job after the war, and taking care of Vern. How much of what happens to Pearl is product of her own choices? I think all of it. Because even though she doesn't want or doesn't like what she's doing, she does it, and she does it willingly, and she doesn't complain, and she doesn't like just leave. And I'm not saying, oh, it's all her fault, she's a horrible person. I'm just saying that everybody sees how reliable she is. Like, okay, she may not like what she's doing, but she's gonna do it anyways, and it's gonna get done. So that's my answer for that one. Number 11. Pearl's attitude towards men and the world in general is influenced by what happened to her in the shack outside Shanghai. To what extent does she find her way to healing by the end of the novel? Did your attitude towards old man Louis change? How do you feel about Sam and his relationship with Pearl and Joy? Did your impression of him change as the novel progressed? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of questions for one question. Um, she finds her healing in the novel by coming clean with Sam about what happened to her. And the fact that they start, as she puts it, doing the husband-wife thing again. I don't know why it's referenced that way. I guess it's in their culture. They don't call it sex. They call it the husband-wife thing. My attitude toward old man Louis did change. I don't know how that's a part of this discussion question, but it did change because he became a more easygoing man as Pearl, or not Pearl, but Joy grew up. So that helped out a lot. I felt like Sam was so sweet and so kind, and he just loved Pearl and Joy so much. And you could just tell in everything he did towards them and the way he treated them. He was just such a good man. It didn't have to change because I always thought he was great from the very beginning. Like, he was always there after, Pearl finally let him in for her. He was always there for her. He always did whatever it took to help her out. And it didn't have to change. I always had a good impression of him. Um, I was kind of sad at the end when he hung himself, though. I kind of wish that things had went differently. Number 12. The novel begins with Pearl saying, I am not a person of importance. After Yin Yin dies, Pearl comments, her funeral is small. After all, she was not a person of importance. Rather just a wife and mother. How do you react to comments like these? I couldn't, I understood that during the time era, women just were women. And the only thing that they were good for is freaking giving birth to babies. And for China, it's baby boys. I didn't like it, though. I couldn't stand it. Like, Yin Yin didn't even get a proper funeral because she was a woman and she wasn't important. Really? But I guess that's me talking in 2016. And it's because I didn't grow up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And that's probably why it's like that with me. Number 13. Speaking of Yin Yin, Pearl notes, when we're packing, Yin Yin says she's tired. She sits down on the couch in the main room and dies. Why does Pearl describe Yin Yin's death in such an abrupt way? I think it was to help her not become emotionally traumatized by it. Plus, it's factual. Plus, the death was really sudden. Nobody expected it at all. Because, I mean, who expects a person to just go sit down and die? It doesn't happen often. And so, I think that's why it was. Like, she was just so shocked by it. It was just like, there's no way I can describe this except for how it happened. Number 14. After Joey points out the differences in the way ZG painted her mother and aunt in the communist propaganda posters, May says, everything always returns to the beginning. Pearl has her idea of what May meant, but what do you think May really meant? And what is Pearl's understanding of this saying at the end of the novel? To be honest, I really don't know. I didn't really give it much thought. I mean, they always kind of talked very vaguely with each other and very, like, half comments here and there. I think maybe May have meant just, I still love ZG and I kind of always wanted to be with him, even though she's an idiot, if she really thought that, because he abandoned her. Just saying. But I don't really know. I know that's a horrible answer, but it's the best one I can give you. Number 15. Near the end of Shanghai Girls, May argues that Pearl and Sam have withdrawn into a world of fear and isolation, not taking advantage of the opportunities open to them. Do you agree with May that much of Pearl's sadness and isolation is self-imposed? Why or why not? I agree and I disagree because I think that back then they were getting treated horribly regardless of what happened. I think May just took advantage of the situation because she was a legal citizen and they weren't, and she didn't really emphasize with them. She just thought about herself. But I do think that 30 to 40% was her own self-imposed situation. 16. How do clothes define Pearl and May in different parts of the story? How do the sisters use clothes to manipulate others? At the beginning when the Japs invaded, which, well, they say Japs, monkey people, and all that is weird. They used pauper clothing, like poor people's clothing, to kind of try to sneak through so they didn't get exposed for being rich people. They used Western clothes because they wanted to look American. They just used many clothes because they wanted to look like a certain them. So, like, when they were working in the restaurant, they wanted to look Chinese, so they used their Chinese dresses, etc. That's basically how they used it. I feel like May was just like, I'm so, like, such a fashionista. Like, oh my god, look at me, give me attention. But that's just me, and she probably said it in a more Chinese way, but you get my point. Number 17. How does food serve as a gateway to memory in the novel? How does it illustrate culture and tradition, both in the novel and in your own family? I think it's a gateway because, like, they missed their home cooking. Like, Yin Yin couldn't cook, and then they started eating American food, and I don't know, somehow they were exposed to food that was like they had in Shanghai, and it just kind of brought them back to Shanghai and made them miss it. And I think with us, like anybody, if you taste the food that reminds you of older times, it's going to bring back memories. If you do something that reminds you of old times, it's going to bring back memories. Number 19. Pearl encounters a lot of racism, but she also holds many racist views herself. Is she a product of her time? Do attitudes change during the course of the story? Um, do her attitudes. Well, because of what happened to her, she's always against the Japanese. She always thinks that they're not going to change. Nothing's going to be different with them. They're evil people. They're monkey people. She's very hurt by the white people thinking that if you're Chinese, you're communist, or if you look Asian at all, you're communist. But she called them low fan. She didn't even like refer to them. Like, I think that's the Chinese way of saying it. Maybe I'm miswording that here, but white people. But like, she knew English. She's very good at English, and this is what I don't understand. Like, when she went to Angel Island, she refused to speak English even though she knew it well. She knew what they were saying, but yet she still let her interpreter interpret for her. And she still talked to the interpreter only. She would not speak English. But she's not really hateful about it. She's just kind of reserved until she gets to know the person, I think. Anyways, last and final question. Number 20. What role does place Shanghai, Angel Islands, China City, and Chinatown serve in the novel? What do you think Lisa C. was trying to say about home? I think she was trying to say that wherever you are is your home. Like, if you're happy and you're content with where you're at, it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. If you feel like you're at home, you're at home. Shanghai was their birth home, which they loved, and anybody loves their birth home. Angel Island was their home for many months until May had the child. I don't know about the China City and Chinatown. Well, they were kind of cities in Los Angeles, and they were kind of a China in an unfamiliar land. But I really love this novel. If you guys can't tell, it was very emotional, and I can't wait to read the sequel to it, which is something of joy, dreams of joy, dream of joy. It's about joy, obviously. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'm sorry it's so long and so boring. If you saw movements in the background, that's just my puppies. They just turned a year old today, and I'm so happy. So, I hope you guys have a good day.